What's up, guys? Welcome to this Friday session. Today we have all four of us on the panel. It was a really interesting session. The part that I liked the most was when Eric talked about structuring real deals. Like, how do you go about allocating equity to all the partners or people involved, from the people who put up the money to the people who are doing the execution? And we share some real world examples of where we've had to sit down with our partners and reduce equity, change equity, all sorts of things that actually happen in the real world, and how these deals are always fluid. I think you'll find that part really interesting. We do a little bit of a discussion about live events as well, talking specifically about a bit of the behind the scenes stuff with the upcoming summit in October, and how we go about planning them from a content point of view. How do we make it so that when people come, they remember how they felt for months and months afterwards, even if they don't remember the content specifically. We also share a whole bunch of info or discussion around real estate in Australia right now, and where people are moving and where money's moving and where there are opportunities, which is really interesting, again, based on our real world observations of what's happening right now out there in the world. So I think you'll really enjoy this. It is another really good fly on the wall, sitting with entrepreneurs and just listening to what we're doing in our life and business right now. Quick reminder, make sure you get on the early bird registration list for the upcoming summit in October. The link is unemployable.com.au/events. Just put in your name and email, and you will be on the first list of emails to get notified when the tickets come out. Only 300 tickets available. They will go quick, so make sure you go do it. With that said, enjoy the pod. Here's a fun fact about our show. We put a ton of effort into making these podcasts for you. The one thing that we would love for you to do, if you actually get value out of the pod, is just hit that subscribe button. By doing that, it helps us get better guests on the show, because they can see that we have a bigger audience. So if you're enjoying the content, just hit the subscribe button below, and then throughout the podcast, drop a comment so that we know that we're hitting the mark or how we can improve. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the episode. What is up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of the Friday Sessions. We have the full accoutrement of talent on the, well, I use that word fairly loosely this morning, on the panel today.
I got no idea what it means. So.
First time ever hearing it.
Yes, it's all hands on deck. The whole crew is here, and welcome. So today we have our usual Friday unpack of our week in review, talking about life and business. Now, Mark, you are here up now, living in Byron Bay. How are you finding it living out of the Arctic conditions of Melbourne this time of year?
Mate, it was fantastic for the first 4 days, but I actually had to go back to Melbourne on Friday for the weekend, so that was a bit frustrating. So I had to go back to the Arctic. But no, it's beautiful up here. I can't complain.
And how's that towel rail treating you?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Little off-camera joke. James, how are you, buddy? You just got back from Bangalore.
I did. Had a weekend down there with my brother's family and their in-laws, and this quite an impressive, we'll call it an estate at the back of Bangalore, which is quite a nice, relaxed and relaxing time. It's good.
Big question. Did you get a very expensive Range Rover and bog it on the grass?
No, I sort of just kept to the signs and did act like a complete fucking moron. But anyway.
Speaking of, Eric, how are you, mate?
Nice segue.
How are you, buddy?
I'm good.
Yeah?
I'm good. Yeah, glad to have everybody here. It's been a good week. James is looking good, as usual. He's actually came well dressed today.
He does. He looks sharp.
Oh, thanks, Eric. I'm waiting for the second part of that.
He's waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Where's the linen?
No linen, man.
That's a summertime.
He's retired linen, mate. He's got PTSD with linen now.
It's a seasonal thing. It'll come back. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. Once the sun's come out, the guns come out.
And how about you, Adam? How are you?
I'm very good, mate. I'm very good. I'm ready for another great episode. Been a busy week. Lots going on, but no, good to be behind the mic and getting back to it. It's been really cool, actually. This week we've had a lot of stuff going on with Unemployable. Yesterday we were at the Brisbane Convention and Exhibition Centre, and going back to that venue, I think for all of us, because we're all sort of part of that reliable education journey, and it all started there and ended there, so to speak. But to be back in the building and working with the crew and the team and planning out the event was kind of cool. And I think, I wouldn't mind just jumping in there and just talking a little bit about these events, because, and what makes a great business event. Like we've got a really cool vibe going here. And essentially what we're trying to emulate at that 2-day event in October is sort of a reflection of Unemployable, the podcast, but in a live setting. And it's so much to creating great live events, you know, and you know, Eric, you'll go through the journey for the first time as an owner of a business doing one. And it's about, you know, making people, like the old saying, people will forget what you said, but they'll remember how you make them feel. And that's such a great way to think about live events. And so we're trying to make a live event where people, they love what was said and they've taken notes and they take that away, but they never forget the feeling of walking into that room, that feeling of just coming away after the weekend feeling elevated and feeling charged up. And that's really what we're trying to achieve. So, and that starts, right? Like it starts firstly with the venue that you choose, right? Like if you choose a sort of a low roof, pokey room with some poles in it that sort of block some of the angles, the energy's not right, but it's cheap. Well, it serves your needs as the event promoter, but it doesn't serve the outcome of making people feel amazing. And I don't know about you, Eric, or you guys, like when you know that an event is at the convention center versus a hotel, straight away it feels more of an event.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. Like walking through the Brisbane Convention Center and just seeing some of the events that they have on there and seeing some of the names, you know, we're there and David Goggins is going to be there shortly, and Bear Grylls and all these famous people that we all know, and knowing that we're going to have our faces up there is pretty cool on the digital signage.
I think it's a bit different too. Like over the years, I've been at plenty of seminars or events up there, and you know, there's different one thing going to a pitch fest where you know you're just going to get flogged and there's no food, shit, coffee, whatever. And then the reliable events, and I'm not trying to plug them too hard here, but they were an experience. And it was the small stuff that you didn't really realize until it already happened. But I remember back when they were being put together, just the amount of effort that went into the finer details, the stuff that you don't really see. I mean, even the event, which was the John Howard breakout at the reliable event, that was an event within an event. You know, the planning that just went into that was completely different to when you go to a headliner act and you get pitched all day long after they've spoken and you don't know when they're going to speak. It was just a whole different feel.
Yeah, we had a little breakout room for those wondering what James is talking about for a certain section of our community to actually meet John Howard. So we had to arrange that around his needs there. And we had a private reception for him and everybody got to meet him in a room of like 50 people. It was pretty special.
Yeah, I just, I got a few points on the whole meetups and networking event things, because that was actually the very first e-commerce event that I attended. And I think one of the reservations people have with events is I probably know this stuff, I don't need to go. But there was three really important things came out of that reliable event for me. The first one was seeing the achievers on stage who were able to tell their stories, and it was able to give me a framework of what's possible. And I realized I was now in the room, right? And before that, I wasn't even in the room. The importance of networks and how it's a slow, organic burn. Like I expected to kind of get to that event and, you know, meet everyone and know all the people I needed to know. But I kind of had introductions at the event, and then over time, over the next 12 to 24 months, they grew upon those early introductions. So it was nice and slow and organic. And just speaking to the different people in the room, you realize that it takes time to manifest and achieve. And, you know, being at these events is kind of like the seed of that manifestation.
Sort of navigates your
and the fourth point is I probably forget most of the content. I don't even remember anything I learned that day, but there was some really powerful things that came out of it. So,
I mean, I met you at those events, and now you're here on the pod. We've become really close mates and so on. Speaking to achievement though, that's a big part, right? And that's something we're carrying forward. I had the same experience when I first started selling on Amazon. I'd been struggling for months, and I went to an event in Las Vegas and I had these awards, and I was talking to this guy next to me, and he was just such an average guy. And then they said, all right, all the $100,000 award winners come up the front of the room. And the guy I was talking to got up and went in the front of the room. And I was like, holy shit, like this guy, like he was just so normal and it blew me away. And so, you know, that's something we did at Reliable as a result of that experience. And we're carrying it forward to Unemployable. So this time, when people buy their tickets, soon after there's going to be a short survey to every ticket holder asking them what level they're at in business. And there's going to be pins that are given on their lanyard. So when they check in, you'll have a pin that you can attach to the lanyard saying $1 million plus, 5 million plus, 10 million plus, 25 million plus, 50 million plus, 100 million plus annual revenue.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So that when you're walking around, you're going to see these people with, oh shit, this guy's got $1 million a year business. This guy's got a $10 million a year business. This guy, like Eric, has got a $100 million a year business. And there'll be a few of those people in the room. And so what it does is it constantly, as you're walking around having a sandwich, you're going, look at all these people achieving stuff. And it normalizes or at least creates a vision of where you can go and you can actually meet these people. And I found that so powerful in my journey.
You just gave me an idea. I think what we got to do with the pins is, we're going to have the different level of pins and the amounts. We should put the year below it, because what happens is as you go on, you're going to go, oh, in 2024, I was $1 million. In 2022, I was at 5 million. Because we forget. Honestly, when I sit there and think, yeah, we're a $100 million business, I forget when we cracked the first 100. I forget, or when we went to $1 million, or when we went to 5 million. I couldn't actually remember off the top of my head. I know roughly, but it'd be pretty cool when you're going to this event in 3 years' time going, you went from $1 million to 10 to 50?
That's a great idea.
You know what I mean? And have the year underneath it, so, rather than just having all these random...
Or even the year that the business was started, right? Like that is such an important point as well, because you see all these people doing these great things and you're like, well, some context behind that is often important.
I think
it's the
idea of the pin, guys, for everyone listening, is just to ask those questions. Yeah. If you see somebody wearing, like Mark will have his probably $5 million pin on by then, but certainly your whatever it is there, and go and say, wow, dude, congratulations. Tell me about your business. And you can learn. It's a conversation starter. And the other pen that we have is the money bag pen, which is I'm an investor. And we're just deciding at what level you need to qualify. So for example, I've got a minimum of $50,000 to put behind an idea. If somebody's got a great idea, I'd love to hear about it, so that you can actually identify someone and go, hey, I've got a great idea. These guys are investors. How do I connect? And if you have those pins, we're going to ask you, have a business card with you ready to say, here's my card, send me an email, let's chat.
Yeah. And just with the awards, it's funny, this weekend, my 8-year-old had an open day at her gymnastics carnival. And basically you had to pay extra for it. You show up on the day and they do their, 8 routines. And then at the end, everyone celebrates. They go in front of the signage and they each get a medal. Now it's the medal is this little plastic medal, congratulations on it, 2024 gymnastics carnival. But like, it changes everything. It was her first medal she's ever gotten. And she was so proud, right? There was so much recognition in front of all these adults. Got these 8-year-old kids. And me growing up, it's the same thing. When you're in track and field, doesn't matter if you're first or if you came 113th, you're still getting a ribbon, and you put that ribbon.
Canadian
right,
of you.
Yeah, right. You put that ribbon.
You get a
right.
reward for showing up.
You put listen, mate. In my world, if you're not first, you're last. Okay.
and you get rewarded for it.
So right. And you put them up. To this day, this is pure wog style. You can see how much my parents love me. In my parents' basement in Canada, they got basements. That's where everyone kind of hangs out, right?
Gets chopped up.
My trophy case, because I used to play quite competitive hockey and baseball. My trophy case is still there with all my trophies, all my medals.
Isn't that amazing?
All my ribbons is still there. And then when my girls come and see it, they always one of the first things they go to is to the trophy case and have a look. I'm sure when they turn 16, they're not going to give a shit and say, but that recognition for them is massive. And as adults, where does the recognition come from anymore? After school, it's finished. You don't get trophies. You don't get ribbons. You don't get medals. You get punches in the face.
No one celebrates.
You get punched in the face. You got to deal with James Denham. Like, this is...
What people do to win awards is amazing. And that's why if you're listening to this and you're thinking of coming to the event, do not make the mistake of not, keeping a low profile, stay off the radar. Step up, put the pen on, get recognized, because it inspires you. Honestly, it changed my life watching people get awarded. And I'm going, if he can do it, I can do it. So powerful.
If you're anywhere near the Gold Coast, or you can get to the Gold Coast, get to the event. At your last Wealth Builders.
Brisbane.
Brisbane. At your last Wealth Builders event, I met a guy, and now we're mates. A guy comes around, watches the Grand Prix. Like, you just don't know who you're going to meet at these events. Get down there.
Yeah.
It's a couple of days. It'd be awesome.
One of the first events I met James. It was one of the best days of my life.
It's not always positive then.
It was honestly one of the best days of my life. It's never been the same ever since.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Just on that, what are we going to do? If anyone watching it doesn't have $1 million business or wants to get started in business, what are we going to do for them? How are we going to identify those guys? Because they're
going to be the ones without the pins.
They're the ones.
Pretty simple.
Don't be the guy without the pin. No, but seriously, that's the idea, you've got to create a little bit of tension. So the recognition is going to be
Right, okay.
I'm the guy that's new in the room. I want to get my first pin. But guys, in terms of, content, that's so these events start with, like, first of all, thinking about recognition and location and things like that, but it's also about content. And we've been doing a really deep dive on I'm doing some surveys in my Insta stories and really getting down to what entrepreneurs want to know about today. And so we've got AI, we've got non-obvious marketing tactics, like, how to create controversy and PR. We've got people talking about that, brand building. We've got all sorts of really interesting people coming, and we'll announce the speaker soon. But quickly before we move off Summit, one cool story was when that young guy Connor turned up.
That was crazy. Unbelievable.
So Eric and I were at the center, and we were posting on our Instagram and say, hey guys, we're down here at the convention center. We're showing the rooms and everything. And then we were walking around the spaces, because there's 4 rooms that the event is sort of booked between. And this young fella turned up and started sort of hovering around the edges of us and our team and the convention center team. And he just kept sort of looking. I'm like, hey mate, what, you're right, you need something? And he's like, oh mate, I'm a bit nervous, but I've just driven in from Carina Heights. It's my day off, and I saw you post on your story, so I've raced down here because I do not want to miss getting a ticket to this event. So I've stopped at the ATM. I've got my cash in my pocket. How much is it? Can I buy a ticket? Because I want to buy ticket number 1. And Eric and I were just like floored that had happened, right? Like, it speaks to the power of social media and speaks to the power of brand. He watches the pod every episode. Shout out to Connor in Brisbane. Well done, mate.
Yeah, Connor.
And we were so stoked for him, but there's a lot of lessons there about, like, just like remembering to be hungry, like, as you age, a lot of people listening to this are 40 plus, you just become so complacent. And so, like, this guy is hungry, and
that's the seed planted, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the seed of his success planted in one action.
I brought Viana, my 11-year-old, with us for the day, and she got to see that, And on the way back home, after we dropped everyone off, she's like, Dad, that guy, he was so eager. He did not want to miss this event, And it made her even more excited, because she's like, it's going to be so good. I can't wait to see it now that I've seen it when everything's empty.
Social proof.
And now she's like, so Dad, do I get the VIP table?
She could have earned that.
Yeah.
she couldn't believe that somebody wanted to come in and meet you, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, not being as fast. Like, kids,
Yeah, leave it there. It's fine.
kids don't see their parents like that. So anyway, big shout out to Connor, and, like, massive respect, mate, because honestly, when I was in my 20s, that's the kind of thing I probably would have done. I would have camped out just for a chance to meet, people that are doing those types of things. So big things ahead for you. So what else has been going on in your weeks, guys? Who wants to kick off aside from the summit?
Can. You want to go, James?
Yeah, it's just that time of the year. We all know the financial year's coming up, so we're just going through and doing a recce on our slow-moving product lines and designing direct product lead funnels and running setting up all ad campaigns for Google shopping ads, Facebook ads, and rejigging a lot of the marketing to clear a lot of that excess stock off, or stock that doesn't move as fast, so we can tip that back into marketing. So that's always been a bit of fun, fair bit of work involved, but once you get the template set up, you can then roll it out across multiple different product lines. So that's been that. And also an interesting little project that's been going on in the background is that we've got a whole lot of we'll call it training data, voice data from our appointment setters. So in other words, a whole bunch of voice recordings and transcripts. So I put together about 15 calls of successful calls and some shitty calls that they didn't get a great outcome with the voice files, and also transcribed everything and then handed off to a a dude who's put together a voice AI bot for us. So that just landed on Friday. So having that call and sitting there and messing around with over a glass of wine's been quite interesting.
That's awesome. Have you tried like getting ChatGPT to listen to each of the successful calls and each of the negative calls and working out what the themes were?
Oh, that's a whole different kettle of fish. And I haven't run that over him. No, not at the moment.
That'd be so interesting.
Yeah. So it's interesting to get back. And we named it Dale, the appointment setter. And I'll tell you what, I was quietly impressed, especially for the demographic we're in. Sitting there and trying to get creative and ask this thing, knowing that it's an AI, and actually trying to have a conversation with it.
Just back it up. So I want to understand what you're saying here. So you got the video, the audio files and the transcripts.
Yep. Pass it to a company.
Yep.
Who built me a voice generated appointment setter.
So it's an actual voice call that rings you.
Yep. I sit there and press it and it rings me, and I sit there and go through all different outcomes. And
so it can outbound call?
It's about to.
Yeah, so it'll outbound call, say, hi, I'm Dale.
Yep, from you recently registered for X, Y, and Z. Is now a good time? So I said also the script.
So it actually
has a conversation.
Yeah, full on. You can go, it goes on for 15, 20 minutes.
We're going to demo this shit, James.
Yeah, well, let's show it.
Next Friday, can we queue this up and give it a run? Well, or something similar.
And can you tell that it's AI?
I can, because I've shopped probably 4 or 5 different dev shops that are doing this sort of stuff. But for the demographic, and you look at it's brand new, so it's one of those things you've got to train, right? So it learns more as you spend more time.
So you're dumping in the transcripts and the audio recordings, and you're saying this is a successful call.
Yeah, and also a sales script. An actual sales script that is like a closed framework.
It's got a sales script that you've uploaded, and then real live calls. And then you just keep dumping in more and more stuff as people ask more and more things.
Well, we've only at the moment, I just received it last night. It was Thursday or Friday. And so it's got enough data at the moment to be able to, for us to then, like I said, the more I use it, the more I trade it, the more it'll trade itself. So it's intuitive.
That's so cool.
And so you're going to use it to actually call leads back when they submit an online form.
That's the goal, is when they opt in, is to call them straight away.
Because people are just joining us. James has a healthcare business. He has lead funnels that in Brisbane. So and he has lead funnels that basically it's an ad on Facebook or Google, and then when people click the ad, it goes to a short survey and says, "Thank you for asking about this product. Fill out this quick survey, and then we'll be able to recommend the best product based on your needs." And then that goes to an appointment saying, "Here's your results. Put in your information."
At the moment, and what the initial thinking is to not actually, I don't want to circumvent the appointment setters, because they get into some fairly chewy conversations with people that are in need. And so it'd be more so to speed to lead, especially think about it from Friday at 4 o'clock till Monday morning at 9 o'clock. And you've got a bunch of traffic coming in and no one's talking to it. But it would probably go from a much shorter conversation to booking with book a call for the appointment setter to dig in and do a proper deep dive on that.
So the AI will book the call for the appointment setter.
Yeah, and then the appointment setter will do a full scale recce on it, and then
will it tell them that it's an AI in the script saying, "Hi, I'm Dale, the AI"?
Not yet, no. Because it's permission based. I mean, if you were doing cold outbound, like in the States, a bandit AI voice for cold outbound, because you can imagine people, some smart asses there that get 50,000 leads and they blast out 50,000 phone calls in 3 or 4 hours.
But if they've opted in, you
correct.
Is there much latency?
That's the impressive part about it. Like it stalled on I threw a couple of curly questions at it, so it stalled. I don't know the answer to that just yet, and then it goes back into a routine. So that's the stuff you got to work on over time. But I've got a call with the guys tomorrow just to walk through exactly what's the best process to train this AI, so we get the best outcome for it before we send it live on the database.
Are they plugging into the ChatGPT APIs? Like, so they building on top of ChatGPT? That's basically what's allowed this.
There's a third layer in there called Brandy, and another one called I'll have to come back on it. But yeah, there's 2 main softwares that overlay GPT and then integrate with GHL especially. And they're the ones that provide the server speed. So there's another one, Vapsi, I think it's called. And so that's the one they're on. And they've chosen Vapsi, I think it's Vapsi, I can't remember, because the servers are more the better the brandy ones are in the US. In other words, the latency with brandy is the layer 3 piece of technology is in the US or more suited to the US, whereas VAPS is more so for Australia. So to answer your question about latency, it's pretty damn good. I was surprised.
Yeah, I have so much hope for it because I see how fast everything moves there.
I think that's, and just, a little bit of a side note on the whole AI space. I think that's where the value is going to be accrued in the layer 2s and the applications. It's not going to be
totally.
It's not going to be the language learning models that have all the value. There'll be 1 or 2 or 3 that are successful and dominate the market share. But then it's those applications on top that'll be where all the value is accrued. And then I think you're going to see most of the big tech companies try and swallow up all those applications.
Yeah, it's super interesting.
And but the thing is, I hear what you're saying about the big guys swallowing up all the little guys. There's that many of them. They'd have to put a fucking big net out to scoop them up.
No, but what'll happen is that your Microsoft Windows or your Google search engine or your Tesla X will basically integrate all the features within their platforms. So you advertise on X, you'll be able to make the phone call on X.
Oh, sorry.
Right, and so they'll swallow. Yeah,
that's super interesting. I think what's really cool about that for people listening is, James is embracing AI now, and we were having this conversation, Eric, last night with coaching clients that we work with every week. We brought Chris in from Early Bird, and this is a good time to do our little sponsor shout out, Early Bird AI on the cap there. But basically over at Early Bird, and it's EARLI, you can go and get a free audit. But what they do is they'll look at your business, like James's business, and they have a ACDC model, which is attract, convert, deliver. What's the last one? Something else. But they basically go through your business, say what areas of your business could AI help. And in your case, James, that's in the attraction phase, right? It's attracting customers and converting customers, AC.
Yep. Also, database reactivation as well.
Yep.
So if you've got dormant leads there that have been there for, like I said, when we acquired this company, there's 25,000 people in the database with mobile numbers, and that demographic don't. How many often do you change your mobile number? Well, I've had my same number.
When you say that demographic, James sells to older people.
Yeah. So
I'm actually surprised at how many younger people these days change their mobile number.
For ages.
I'm actually surprised that you're lying to the public about not changing your mobile number. Come on, man.
Man, the amount of data this number's been handed out to, mate, I don't want to let that go. There's millions in that.
Well, it'll be interesting to split test, like once you get the data on Dale, the male, and
it could be female. It could be female.
Yeah, a female, right? Like to see.
If it was me, I would get an old lady calling. I got a telemarketer a couple of days ago who she sounded like she was probably mid-60s, and I don't know what it is, but I can't be rude to a lady in her mid-60s. I like, not that I want to, but normally with a telemarketer, like, could. I'm going goodbye, hang up. But she was calling from a core hotel groups, and she just sounded like my grandmother. Like if I had my grandparents, so that's what she sounded like. And it's very hard to hang up on an older lady.
Well, funny you say that, because one of our appointment setters, Ratha, who she's got the most beautiful voice, and she's very soft, very calm, and her conversion rate's bonkers. So we're going to emulate that voice.
Maybe you might have to get one with a bit of a, the older people when they talk and they have a bit of a.
I saw what sort of old people you've been hanging out with, but that's pretty
little whistle. Like what's that old guy in? Is it not South Park? What's that old guy? Yeah, that TV show.
Anyway, we will have to edit that bit out because Albert's got fucking insulting.
No, it'll come to me. But it's true.
I saw a funny meme in the week, and it was like when you go to check what Alzheimer's is on Google, and all the links are already purple. That's a good joke for your database for reactivation, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's what I was thinking. Herbert maybe is.
That's it. Herbert.
You know what Herbert calling anybody, mate? Jesus.
No, but the lisp, the little, not lisp, but he's got a little whistle.
Let's move on.
A little bonus for Richard this week for saving Eric silly.
That's awesome though. That's a great story. Like you read about the power of AI, but to hear people that are actually going in there and activating and executing on it, like it's amazing.
I said to the young chap who's putting together, he seems to have gone to the States and had a hunt around. And look, I said, use me as a test case because we've got so much data out there as well. Like we've got 25,000 records. When I say records, phone numbers, emails, all that sort of stuff like that. So struck up a relationship there and said, look, let's iron it out together. And because we've got email, we've got phone, there'll be voice drops, there'll be all this sort of stuff we can add into it as well. So
it's good that you're doing it now, James, because these businesses that do it now are the ones that are going to shoot ahead, and all of a sudden other competitors in your space are going to go, where the hell did these guys come from? And it's because you've gone from a green belt to a black belt in like a year of focusing on AI. And this is the way I think so many businesses need to think about it, is make this the year of AI in your business.
Yeah,
and you'll come out of it so much more powerful and efficient.
I think it just becomes down to, I was on the call last night as well, being inquisitive and just jumping online and going through YouTube and then reaching out. As soon as you click on any AI company out there that's doing voice or whatever, you'll get sucked into so many marketing funnels. There'll be no shortage of where do I find that integration? Where do I find that company? Click on one ad.
Just go talk to
and you'll talk to Early Bird, whatever. I mean, I think it's good to also, definitely Early Bird. I mean, they're here on the ground and Chris knows his shit back to front. He's at the cutting edge.
Get across it.
Get across it, understand what is out there. So when you have a conversation with Chris, you actually can talk the same language and it's just a much better conversation.
I want to make a point, and this is not to tease James at all, but James is not 25 or 30, right? Like James is in his 40s.
32, mate.
But no, like a lot of people are saying, oh, like I'm too old to learn this. You're not. Like get in and embrace it and lean into it. And James is leaning into it. Like I walked in this morning, I realized I'm leaning into Instagram learning and TikTok learning at 50. That's the secret. You've got to stay young and curious about this stuff or your business goes stale just like you do.
AI, I think a lot of people still the average person still doesn't really understand what AI is. They kind of think it's like a sexy search engine, but what AI really gives you at its core is the ability to take all of the information and data that's come before us and extrapolate that out and be superhuman. AI should really be considered as something that can 100x processes, like a productivity lever, and something that can help you think. So if you've got an idea for a blog piece, for example, you can go in there and you can ask, you can say, hey, AI, I want you to comment on this idea for a blog piece as if you were Einstein, the average guy on the street, a news reporter, or whoever your target audience is, and it can give you different points of view. So it can really expand our thinking and the way we go about doing things. And, everyone in business at the moment should really be putting the AI first lens across everything they do. Where can I improve this process with AI?
It's like it was mobile first a while ago. Now it's AI first is a lens. Speaking of efficiencies in business, just to change gears quickly, for those watching on YouTube, just have a look on the screen now. I'm going to show you a document that was created in Canva this week. And Eric and I created this actually over the weekend. I'm not a designer. I hadn't really paid much attention to Canva, but this is created on Canva and it's a brochure about our coaching program. And the point is not to flog the coaching program here, it's to actually show you the quality of the output. Everything you see here, apart from the images that are obviously ours, the images were from Canva, the font, it's just literally drag and drop. Just skip through a couple here. So there's page one, just using templates. Look how powerful this is from a design point of view. Every single thing was done natively inside of Canva, removing backgrounds, using templates for layout. I'm not a graphic designer. Just keep clicking through. Yep, choose well. Yep, making plans. Yeah, it's just like incredible quality. And there's some real deals that, we've done in our life of business and investing that you can sort of just get a sense of who we are. Just skipping through. For those of you listening on Spotify, this is we're showing how stunning this document is. In terms of graphic design, I think all of you watching this would be going, holy crap, like that is a really nice document. Yeah. That in the past, this kind of thing would have cost, that's enough there. Just go back to
$1,000.
At least. It'd be so expensive to get that. And not only that, it would have taken a week of interviewing designers, a few days to brief them, a 2 to 3 week turnaround for a draft, and then iterations. That there was started on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And it's now a few days later.
Just on that, like where I was going with, we mentioned prices before. When we were doing Use By, we had a design firm do this stuff, and some of these leading brochures, what you call not the subliminal stuff, they're 15, 18 grand.
Yeah,
and they would take a month, and it was like they were good. And I'm not knocking you here. You've done a fantastic job. But if you had someone on Upwork who knew how to use fiber properly, and you go, here's the standard, go drop that in there. Then I mean, the result will be bonk. Not that that's
Canva.
not.
No,
it would be bonkers.
Yeah, so that's Canva. That's $150 a year for a pro subscription.
Wow.
And I can make as many as I want. It's just nuts. And when you go in there and you just click all the buttons that you don't understand, like you can't break anything. Like click that button. What does it do? There was one called BG Remover. I was like, what's that? Well, background remover. I didn't know that. One button cut the whole background out.
Canva is so simple and intuitive to use. It's very drop and drag. Whereas I don't know if anyone's ever gone into Photoshop and tried to you can't even resize a photo in Photoshop. They're starting to use AI within Photoshop as well, and I'm sure it'll improve. But Canva is incredible. It's at the forefront of simplicity.
We're doing
for
our summit workbooks in here. We're doing our event lanyards. Like I put in event lanyard templates. They've got them. You put in PowerPoint decks. You put absolutely everything.
Power of data.
Social media, whatever. And it's got AI now where it can actually write the copy for the thing that you want to write. So you just put your prompt straight in. It drops the copy straight into the template. So big shout out to the Aussie company Canva.
Michelle Perkins,
yeah, and they've done an amazing job, and they deserve all the money that they're worth, because they've added so much time back to small business owners. Unfortunately, it's putting graphic designers out of business. But
it shouldn't though, right? Like it's putting bad graphic designers out of business. The good graphic designers really should be adopting this technology, and you don't want to do that on weekends. So create a scalable model that frees you up of your time, so you don't even have to do it on
what
weekends.
What it should be doing is you're going to get a better quality document for less.
Yeah.
Right. That's what it should be doing.
Yeah, and it's helping startup founders though that don't have cash be able to produce really high quality output. So I think that's really interesting when you see it. And everything I ask now, I ask, can AI do it? Is there a platform that can do it? Because let's be honest for a second, making money in Australia is freaking hard to make a profit in this country, because everything's so expensive. And like so many Aussie entrepreneurs are out there just going, how these guys break through and really make money? You got to read that book, Eric Ries, The Lean Startup, which talks about how you've just got to be super lean, super efficient, or you're not going to make a dollar in this country. It's just how it is, unfortunately. Eric, what's been going on in your life?
Lots. I mean, between business, family, James, there's lots of things happening.
So it's a lot.
But the reality,
it's like a little uphill.
Is when we're starting businesses, and I want to talk about something serious. When we're starting businesses, and when you go to the events and you create these networks, and there's business opportunities that come on board, and nothing's been created yet, and you're going, okay, I've got the money. All right, this guy's got the idea, idea, capital, execution, right? That whole model. And you start going, okay, you own 10%, you own 40%, I own 60%, or vice versa, whatever it is. People need to start thinking really, really hard about that and be a lot more realistic, because everyone says cash is king, cash is king, cash is king. In certain aspects, it is. But I've been an investor in a lot of different types of businesses. And recently, last week, actually, I had to have a conversation with one of my business partners. And it was difficult, but I was making it a lot more difficult in my mind than what the conversation actually was. Mm-hmm. So I felt that I had too large of a share in a company, and the person that's actually running the company and doing the hard work, and it's all on that person, we had the same amount. And I thought, you know what, this isn't aligned. So I had the conversation and said, okay, here's the expectations, right? And for the to meet these expectations, this is what I'm willing to do. And I've seen it many times in the past where friends or acquaintances get into business with people. They have a majority shareholder. They have the majority shares, but they're not working in the business, right? So they're not spending a lot of time in the business. And what I call the jockey has this small percentage. And at the beginning, the jockey gets excited, right? Because the jockey is the one that doesn't have a lot of funds, and they look at it as a great opportunity to go and own 10 or 20% of this business. Until 2, 3, 4 years later, if it gets to that point, if you're lucky enough to get to that point, they then are looking, and their wife and their missus and, their partner is in their ear going, but like, you're doing all the work, right? You're doing all the work and you're only getting X percent. And the reality is this is what happens, right? And there's a thing called resentment that gets built in. And once that happens, it becomes a big problem. So when you are looking at starting a business and, again, going to these events and networks and creating relationships with people and coming up with business ideas, and then it comes to the shareholdership, you really want to have a long think about what it's actually worth and what someone else is giving up. Because one thing you can't get back is time. You can lose money, but you can always go and make more money. You can't make more time. And the person that's actually putting everything aside, right, and going deep into that one thing, right, deserves to be rewarded for that from a percentage of shareholdings. So I made a decision to say, hey, here's the expectations, and for that, I'm willing to give up X, because it also gives me time, right? And the expectation is not there of, you have to do this.
I just had a question on that. You're obvious. How established is this business? How long has the business been operating now?
Almost 4 years.
4 years, and it's successful, right? Yep. There's a net profit. There's a proven track record.
Yes.
Oh, I think part of the issue when you're starting a business is you're uncertain of what success is going to look like.
Yeah.
And so I think it's real. Don't you think it? Well, this is a question to you, actually. Do you think that it's a little bit harder at the initiation of a business to sometimes get those percentages right, because you don't know what success is going to look like? You don't know what the contribution from each party is going to look like.
Yeah.
But now, 4 years down the track, you have a clear picture of what it looks like, and you can readjust.
Yeah.
Like how do you navigate?
Yeah, it definitely is harder at the beginning.
How do you navigate all that?
If it's your first business. But now that I've been involved in multiple businesses, I know now any new business that I get in is setting those expectations up front, so that way you know exactly what they are of each person that's involved. But to me, the person that is actually being the jockey of the business needs to be rewarded, right, in my eyes, more heavily than someone that is just sitting on a board, as an example. So Adam and I, have a business, another business together. I won't mention the name, but one of the aspects to us investing in that business is us diluting shares over time. So that way we actually own less, but they are then gifted back to the people as an incentive to keep growing the business. So that way you might have a smaller slice of the pie, but the pie is getting a lot bigger because the person, the people that are running the business are incentivized, and they've got a bigger carrot in front of them to say, hey, okay, I'm going to give up my next 3 or 4 years of my life for this. Meanwhile, here's Adam and I doing podcasts and doing events and setting up other businesses and doing property deals and these type of things. The reality is the jockeys aren't doing anything else. And I've seen it in the businesses. There's no time to do anything else. So they are fully committed to doing that. And I think you have to, which one are you? And again, it's setting those expectations.
One of the key expectations up front that I always put in is a genuine willingness to sit back down and talk about the deal as more information comes to light.
Always,
and you evolve. And what you did, Eric, by being the guy that was owning too much, coming forward gives all the power to you.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, when I say power, I mean respect probably.
Respect
is a better word. Like imagine being the shareholder with a guy and the other guy comes forward and says, hey, I think I've got a bit too much here. So that speaks, that creates bond and trust and reputation. But the other thing that you talked about there is very important. Like, you know, when I went through the process of our software company getting funded by venture capitalists, what venture capitalists do is they try to get the alignment of incentives right. The whole world works on incentives. You know, the old saying, follow the money, right? Like if you want to find out why something happened, follow the money, right? Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to companies, if you're not getting the outcomes you want, then it's because the incentives aren't right. The first thing they said was, Adam, you own 68% of a company. This is the venture capitalist. You don't work in the company. You were the initial founder. You were there for the first 18 months full on. Then you put a CEO in. And now the CEO, the CTO, and the rest of the team are running the company. We need those guys incentivized in order for us to invest. So we need to take more than half of your shareholding off you in order for us to put money in. Otherwise, we're investing in a vehicle where we don't feel that the drivers are appropriately incentivized. So it was a very hard pill to swallow when that happened. But we structured it such that if the business didn't grow, then the shares come back to me and that's fine. So it was, and that worked really well. And in this particular deal Eric's talking about, we put up all the fund for these people that we backed. But we said, look, we know putting the funds in, the amount of equity we've got now is too much. We're uncomfortable with it, but we're going to give it back to you as you hit these certain milestones, including repaying the capital, including growing the company, because we really only want to be around 25, 30% maximum of the business and want the other 70% to be held by the people running the company. So we incentivized ourselves down from a higher amount down to a lower amount based on performance being met and our capital being returned.
So I mean, this is probably a really good practical example. Like, where do you start when the business doesn't have any runs on the board and you're putting in all the capital as a percentage?
Well, for us, it varies. It depends on the idea. It depends on the experience level of the people you're in business with, how much involvement. Like Eric and I are pretty hands-on in terms of guiding these people and making sure that they stay on the right path. And we all know that, you know, and this is the mindset, is that the chances of survival are probably less than 20%. Like, I mean, beyond 5 years. Beyond 1 year, it's probably less than 20% for most businesses.
Yeah.
So especially when you've got mature people like Eric and I around it, because we can see when something's not working and we will not hang around for 5 years. If we see there's no product market fit and we can't make it fit and we can't pivot, we'll kill that thing and move on and lose our cash, because the opportunity cost is so high for us to have attention there if it's not going to be working. Yeah. And so we go into these things knowing the probability of success is super low. We need to find product market fit ASAP. Then we need to make sure the alignments are right, and we need to be willing to sit down at any point in time and say, is everything, now that we've been together for 3 months, 6 months, is everything we thought true? And if not, what needs to change? Are the alignment of incentives correct? Do we have the right people in the right places? And that can lead to some difficult conversations sometimes.
Yeah.
I'll give you one more example. And this is where what you mentioned before, the word respect, comes from. I'm already a shareholder in a separate business, successful business, and in the health food space. And my business partner came to me. I already have a minority in the business, and he came to me probably about 18 months ago, maybe close to 2 years ago, and said, are you willing to invest more money into the business? We need more funds. And for that, I'm willing to give you X. And at that time, it was a bit of a vulnerable situation, because the amount of money for the amount of shares was amazing for me, or it was a great deal for me. But I actually sat back, and he's a personal friend. And I sat back and said, you know what, I'd be uncomfortable to take that amount, because in the back of my mind, I had that going, if I own that much, right, how much effort, how much are you still going to be putting into this business?
It's a very valuable point.
Right. How much are you going to keep going? And this is a business that's been going for 7 years, 8 years already. So I literally said to him, if I'm in your position, right, and this is coming, I said, I'm shooting myself in the foot here, okay? But relationships are very important for me. I said, I know you have a house, right? I know you have equity in that house. I'll put you on to my mate who's a broker that gets deals done. You should remortgage your house, take that amount of equity out, which is basically the funds that you're asking me, invest it back into your business, our business.
Yeah.
But I don't have day to day. I don't have day to day, right? Since that happened, the business has just catapulted, like ridiculous, right? And I sit back and go, would it have been the same outcome if I took that and put in, and I honestly, hand on heart, don't think so.
No, because
and he respects me so much more. And let me tell you, the next time that he's going to need money, who's he going to come to?
Skin
right?
So
he's going to come to me, and then the business is at a different point now.
And money from a bank is different from money from a friend. Even though people say, no, I respect your money more. There's a difference when the bank has a fucking security over your house.
Yeah.
And I'm not, sure. I know the guy. I'm not saying that he would have been any more. It's just different in your head. He's a great guy. Yeah. It's not a
no, but
how did it make you feel? Like last week when the wrong word is owned up. You didn't own up. You just came forward and said, I've got too much. But how did you feel coming out of that meeting now that you had removed that dialogue of obligation?
Like on that business, it's like a weight off. Yeah, definitely.
Because you knew there was an obligation. I'm 50-50 with this dude. And this is what people don't understand. They're like, that every business you have where you've got obligation takes up a piece of bandwidth. You worry about it. You think about it at some level. And sometimes you need to offload some of that obligatory. And like Alex Hormozi says, most people are 2 or 3 difficult conversations away from a completely different life. Yeah. And that is the type of conversation that can liberate you from that.
Yeah. Mindset. And I think, Mark, what you're saying earlier, how do you know, at the beginning, the biggest thing is trying to understand who you're going into business with before you talk about anything. And what's important to them. Like to me, I think I mentioned last podcast, and if not, it might have been another conversation I've had with someone, is the relationship for me is much more important than the gain on a monetary value side for me. Because like you look at Adam and I as an example, and what we're doing with Unemployable and Early Bird and this new product that we're launching, and who knows what else can happen. James and I are talking about some property stuff. Like this is just the things that happen, right? And the relationship's so much more important than one of the partners thinking they're getting screwed over on a deal, and then you lose the opportunity on everything else. Yeah.
There's a saying, I don't know where I heard it, maybe it was on a podcast or something, some famous businessman or something said, if you need a contract, you're going into business with the wrong person, right? Like if you can't sit down and renegotiate at key points, 3 months in, 6 months in, 12 months in, etc., then you probably...
I'll share another quick story on this because it's, this stuff is what people really want to learn about, is like, how do you do these deals? How are they structured? How are the conversations had? And the truth is, there is no, like, everyone looks for a blueprint or a checklist, or there is no blueprint or checklist, because the people change, the deals change, and people change themselves. Even if it's the same person, the market changes. So I'll give you an example. I had a deal a few years ago. A good friend of mine, we had a long history together. I knew he was a good operator. I trusted him implicitly. He's just a completely above the line guy. He's never going to fuck you over, right? And he's since proven that to be true. In the asset that we bought, there was a Slurpee machine that he sold on Facebook Marketplace for $40 that was in the property, and he deposited my share into the bank account for the $40, right? He's that kind of guy. Anyway, he came across a deal. It needed $1.2 million of cash to secure the deal. And there was a split that he proposed. He was looking for 10 investors, and he rang me first, came down to Main Beach Bakery. We sat down, showed me the deal, and I understood the deal, but I more trusted him. I knew that this guy was competent. He would not live with himself if he lost a penny of anyone's money, let alone a friend's money. I gave him them, and he'd done a smaller scale, but he'd done it before. The asset was about $3.5 million. So I put up all the money. We did an agreement on the split, which I thought was fair. And it was like, I know that he's going to have to do all the work. It was not a 50-50 split. And the deal was I put up the money, I get 10% coupon or interest on the money. And then after a year, we revalue the property, I get my money back, and then we hold the asset long term. That was the idea. And it happened. And I said, I'll give you the money on one condition. I get to look at the next, any future deals you do, I get first look before anyone else, right? Which was a very clever thing to add as a term, right? And it wasn't a term, on paper, it was just an agreement. A year later, exactly that happened. We refied the property. I got all of my cash back plus my interest rate. The interesting part of this, and we still own the asset today, produces a shitload of cash flow for us, and we've got no debt. No personal money in the deal. It's funded now. Anyway, he came back to me 18 months later and says, I've got another deal. And we sat down and I said, oh, that's awesome. Thanks for thinking of me and everything. And the terms were different, right? Mm-hmm. And I said to him, hey, look, why are we here? Because I know, and he knows, he's a successful guy right now, and especially now after that first deal, it really smashed out of the park. And things had changed for him. His business was now pumping. The only reason he saw me is at that moment, initially, he didn't have the 1.2 million. Today, no problem for him. But then he needed it and he found the deal. So we sat back down. I said, look, why are we here? He said, because I sort of said I'd give you a look at the first deal. And I said, the terms are different. He goes, yeah, well, it's a different deal. And then I said, you don't need my money, do you? And he goes, no. I said, then don't take my money.
Don't feel obliged.
Don't feel obliged, man. Like I want you to be wealthy. I want you to be happy, and I want you to be successful. The last thing I want to be is a token carry along. I said, you can do this on your own, man. Like, go and do it. Like, and he goes, oh, I'm going to send you a fee anyway, because I just feel I should. I said, brother, give that fee to the John Fawcett Foundation. I don't even want it. I said, and I wasn't at all pissed off. I was just like, bro, like, I'm just honored that I got to be in that first deal with you, and I got you, and now the guy's worth 8 figures, right? So it's, and we're close mates. We play poker together all the time. He's at my wedding with his wife and all these things. You just got to remember it's a long road. And like Eric said, if you can keep the relationship and you can do deals that are genuinely win-win. Every month he sends me my distribution from that property, which is a decent amount of money. And every month I write the same thing. Thank you so much. Yeah. I'm so appreciative of what you and your wife have done with this asset, how you run it, how you do it, because I know how hard it is to get a check without any money on the table. That's a very tough deal to do.
The key is don't be greedy. Yeah. But it's very hard not to be greedy when you're starting out and you're in this scarcity mindset of I don't have enough, I need more, this is my way out. And there's no right or wrong answer in that. I think that is just experience in time.
Yeah, like I think that's true. It's like when the situation changes, you've got to change with the situation as well. And
because deals have emotional consequences. Like you whatever deal you do, you're going to have to carry that. And there's a different reality in each path that you take. James is working on something at the moment. I had a very, very wealthy guy over for dinner last week, at my place, a billionaire. A multi-billionaire, and we sat there for a few hours and he was telling us about all the deals that he's in at the moment. It was just him and me and my wife for like 4 hours at home. And the way he does deals is very relationship based. And James is doing some stuff at the moment. I said, well, the way I see this, James, you're a killer operator, and now your only problem is going to be how are you going to fund this at scale? You can probably fund a few deals yourself, but how are you going to fund it to go bigger? And you either got to fund it with banks or you fund it with partners. And there's different math with both of them, numericals, which is the quantitative, but the other side of it is the qualitative. So one world, you're going to wake up with like a couple of high net worth clients, and the other, you're going to wake up with a bank going, where's my money? Right? At interest rates that fluctuate, or this is the deal, this is how it works. So when we were chatting, I said, just remember to think about the qualitative aspect of which path you take, because the thing that people don't talk about is how your energy is a defined resource, right?
And I think that's important with that business that you're talking about, Eric, that you handed back a chunk of equity in it. That was you weren't so much in the daily, but you were pretty hands-on with that business. So it's not only giving him back his so it doesn't feel have that resentment, but also it's freed up your time as well, haven't you? Like the business is now mature enough. It doesn't really need me as much as it did before.
Yep.
And I know it's going to scale. I'm still going to get the same outcome, but he's going to be a hell of a lot happier. And I've now got bandwidth.
And I add value in different ways that they appreciate, and vice versa. That's
resentment's a killer, man. Like it kills intimate relationships.
Yeah.
Like the minute you start resenting your wife, or your wife starts resenting you, that's the beginning of the end. The minute you go, I wish he'd just fucking go to the gym and put on some fucking decent clothes instead of being a slob.
Don't stop talking about James, man.
Let's talk about the gym thing, Eric. You can only use certain things to excuse for so fucking long. That was a more of a. No. Do you know that guy got the fucking Daryl Lyons got his fake ab stitched in?
Come on.
Go on.
No, but so that's the truth though, right? Like if you get lazy or you get complacent. So it's the same in business. You just got to make sure resentment doesn't creep in, and you run the risk when you invest in a business or go into these deals. You're going into an emotional dynamic.
And I'm in partnerships in all my businesses. I don't like doing anything on my own. So, but
everything.
I do. I like doing one thing on my own sometimes.
Wow, that's a big.
I walk on the beach. What do you mean by myself? No, but and sometimes partnerships aren't for some others as well. It's knowing who you are, and I think that's very important, because just because we rant about having partners and partnerships and syndicates and all this, it's difficult, right? It's not easy because you are managing personalities, and some people aren't great at that. So I really think about who you are and what category
you can only do that. You can only do what you're doing, which is manage multiple. People say to me, how do you manage? We've got, I think, 9 or 10 companies now in the family office, and you've got a few.
Yep.
The guy I had over the other night is running multiple, one business has 15,000 employees, right? Like big businesses. And he said, they're like little boxes, and you got to get the right people and the right incentive. If you get the right people and they're incentivized in a way that they wake up, like it's the old thing, right? If it's truly a win-win deal, you can do multiple of them. Yeah. If it's like, well, you've tried to fuck every single person along the way, you can only do 1 or 2 of those, and then they start breaking down and it's painful. And instead of just going, hey, this is how we roll, then you do it.
And I think starting out entrepreneurs tend to have this belief that they need to be the number one guy as well. Like Patrick Bet-David posted something on this recently on Instagram. He said, the most money that I've ever made was when I was the number 2 or the number 6 guy. It's like number 1 guy has all the burden, all the everything is on that guy's shoulders. It's like sometimes we think we've got to be the number 1 guy going into a deal, and that's generally our ego driving us. But if we can structure deals where we're number 2, number 6 or whatnot,
all the young people, listening,
we can make more money. And he says it took me 52 years to realize that I make more money as the number 2 or number 6 guy.
Yeah. And there's an intangible thing that you don't see that comes with that, is the stress of being number 1 and feeling like someone's going to take it away from you.
That was the context of his article. And the sleepless nights and all the
clip
risk.
was great. He's like, you got to put in the capital. He goes, you got to put on the straight face. You got to carry all the risk. He goes, you got to tell everyone everything's fine when you got no money to pay the bills.
Right.
Wow.
And it's it's a 0 to 1 game for most people listening to this. They're yet to have their first big win. They're yet to sort of bank the first $1 million or 2 outside of the family home into their investment assets, not their superannuation where they were forced to pay for it, not the value of their house that's gone up, but really $1 or $2 million portfolio outside of that's grown, or 5 million or 10 million. And I always say to people, if you don't have $10 million in this country at retirement, you're going to struggle. And a lot of people are up in arms. And I'm like, go and do the math, mate. Like, work out the taxes, work out the life you want. I'm telling you right now, you need somewhere between $5 to $10 million to have a good life in retirement.
There was an article making the argument that, being worth a couple of $1 million is the new middle class.
Yeah, it is. Like the new millionaire in my mind is 10 million. Like the way we used to think of it as, coming up, like millionaires. Like now it's like, no, man, like millionaires is nothing.
And I'd like to do a piece on this on another episode, but that all comes back to the currency debasement, the increase in government debt and debt around the world. But we'll talk about this. But that's
right up your
basically
alley.
What's causing that shift.
So for a lot of the listeners today, don't worry about whether you own 50% or 80%. Try to own anything of a company that actually wins.
Yeah.
Just try to get a win chalked up. And if you get a business that chalks up to a win, I listened to the Simon Cowell podcast. I'm about halfway through. Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO, had Simon Cowell on this week. It's an amazing interview, and you really understand the price that guy paid and how hard that guy worked to just get in the right rooms to start his career, and the sacrifice and the...
Is that the American Idol guy?
The American Idol guy, the English guy, the judge, Simon Cowell.
It's a good interview.
Great interview about just get some wins on the board instead of trying to kick the number of young people that I've met who go, oh, I've got this one idea and I'm going to go and give away 5% of the company for $1 million. I'm like, mate, do you like sex and travel? Because if you do, fuck off.
Just on that, it's not just in the entrepreneurial space either. I see this with like people who are looking to buy homes. Like they want to put all their money, all their life savings into an apartment. That over time, apartments don't do as well as land, right? And they want to put everything into it, this number one. And I tell them all the time, like, would you consider just renting where you want to live and buying a better asset? And when I say a better asset, buying something with a larger land component, even if it's in another state, so that you can 3x your money over 10 years rather than have to pay off this debt that doesn't appreciate and then has, stamp duty up the wazoo. It's like, but it's so hard for people to get past that. But you're telling me I should rent?
Like I went to
own my home.
It's real.
We went to Hunter Valley, right? As if you guys listened last week, as you're aware, with the car bogging that James loved, and we're driving through, and there's this town, right, called Cessnock, and it's like the town just before the Hunter Valley, basically borders the Hunter Valley. And you drive through this town, and it's like kind of like it's not the nicest looking town, and there's older houses, and then there's like a couple new estates, and I'm just like, shit, man, this place looks pretty average,
Spoken like a true yuppie, hey?
And then we're sitting down at dinner, and we had this waiter come along, and he was amazing. He actually made the night. And I asked him, where do you live? And he goes, oh, most of us, anyone that works in the Hunter Valley, live in Cessnock, which is 20-minute drive. And I go, do you rent or do you own? He goes, I'm from Sydney originally, and we moved there so we can afford to buy. I said, okay, so, and he goes, we bought a place, and we paid $400,000. It's 4-bed, 2-bath, 2-car on 800 square meters. Mm-hmm. I go, what's it worth today? And he's like, about $650. So
how long ago did you buy?
I think it was 3 or 4 years, whatever it was, right, prior to COVID. But so he's made a bit of equity. But the reality is, you could still get a 4-bed, 2-bath, 2-car on 800 square meters in Cessnock for $650,000.
Yep.
So when you say I can't afford to get in the market because you want your $1.5 million house in Mermaid Waters or in Broad Beach Waters, like it's a load of shit.
I've said this on previous pods, right? In 2007, 2008, Melbourne Victorian government introduced the $32,000 home buyers grant. And the house and land in the undesirable Craigieburn and Tarneet and Truganina went up 3x in 10 years. Queensland today is playing the same playbook, $32,000 home buyers grant. You got land 40 Ks out of Brisbane. You got the Olympics in 10 years. Mark my words, check this date, write it down. In 10 years, we'll come back and you'll see the house and land in those areas go up 3x. And it's now 450 to 650.
Clear as day.
Yeah. And a big shout out to people who have done that. If we've got listeners in towns like Cessnock and Wagga and Moree and all these great country towns that have made that decision, and I know it's happening. I was reading the Financial Review last week. They're moving into these places because they're like, fuck Sydney, fuck Bondi, where you're just getting anally probed for bloody rental every week when you pay, and they're moving out. And you know what? I my wife and I went to Mount Gambier in Adelaide not long ago, and we went to the Blue Lake and all those things. It's bloody fantastic. Like some of these restaurants, when you go there, these cafes, have got young people working in there. They're making gourmet coffees, and there's a real vibe in some of these places starting to happen. And it's really a cool thing to do as an Australian. Don't get an airplane ticket. Get in the car. Go for a drive. It's awesome. You don't need a Range Rover like Eric. You can do it in a normal car.
So we're just talking about, in areas that aren't as desirable as...
Well, you're at the G-Wagon. Sorry, mate.
Some areas that are not as desirable as Mermaid Waters in Eric's example. But when I went to a project marketing company back in 2016, 17, you buy a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car on about 450 to 480 metres. It's a 180 square metre home, 185 square metre home at Logan for 380. I just was dug up another project marketing list that I'm still on, because I just usually delete them all now. 755 grand, same block in Logan. Like fuck me, it's that's bonkers. So it can be done. Just need to go. It's like a ripple, right? You throw a coin in, it just ripples out. You go to the final.
Just for the record, I wouldn't buy in Logan. I drove through Logan just not long ago.
I was not using it as an example about where are you going to go and buy? You throw a coin in the water, the ripple effect. You go and find somewhere for that 380, 400, somewhere for a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, car.
We're talking about investments here, right? But I've got a friend who lives in Sydney and runs an e-commerce business, and to buy like a 2-bedroom apartment in this suburb of Sydney, it's like 1.5 million. So they had this great idea to have a look at Perth. They're now looking at a house that's a street back from the beach. It's on the beach. It's 4-bedroom. It's a double-story mansion for like 1.4. So and Perth is freaking awesome, right? Like the weather's nice. You're on the beach. It's like there's so many ways to skin a cat. These days we have, so much opportunity. We're not trees. We can move if we want to.
Be open,
be open to it.
Adventure,
Yeah, and we preface that by saying shit's also the most fucked up it's ever been. Yeah. But there's opportunity to get through it and get out of it. Great.
We went up to the far north in the west recently, up into Broome and everything. It's unreal if you haven't seen that part of the world. It's a beautiful place. All right, guys, I'm going to call it for the week. I think so, guys. That was awesome. Thank you for sharing your week. I hope all of you listening at home are finding value in this. The idea of the pod, guys, drop a comment below. Let us know what you think. That stuff that Eric brought up today, for example, thank you for bringing that up about deal making, because I do get a lot of DMs and questions about that, but I never thought to bring it up on a pod. And a lot of that kind of really granular real world experience with that stuff is what we're trying to bring to the pod. So drop in the comments if there's things like that you want to hear about or you want to hear us riff on. We're happy to share. And where we can, we try to be as specific as we possibly can for you.
Tell us where we suck as well. We love to hear that. We've got one special listener that tells us all the time. So he's great. I've actually become friends with him now, Adam. Thanks for the introduction.
Oh, Ben, he's awesome. You guys suck. You're the worst podcast on the internet.
Like seriously, sometimes getting criticism and feedback like that and you actually become friends with the person that's giving you that feedback, because it's so rare to find honest feedback. So tell us where we suck.
To be fair, Ben did only do that on the first episode, but it was scathing. But it was awesome. That's Ben's personality. He's a good mate.
He's a legend.
If you're watching,
hey Ben,
go fuck yourself. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Drop a comment, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember, go to unemployable.com.au/events to get on the pre-registration list for the summit. Tickets will be out in the next week or two, and they will go fast. There'll be 300 tickets. Hopefully they all sell out really quick. Be like Connor, be Johnny on the spot, get your ticket.
Connor.
And we will see you all soon. Bye for now. Have a great weekend.
Hey there. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Unemployable. If you'd like to watch another episode, just click there.